Hello, everyone. I first of all like to thank Alibaba Cloud for inviting me in my capacity as chairman of Tech ASEAN Research and Advocacy to make this presentation on the future of digital finance and FinTech. In my presentation, actually, will have a particular emphasis on Southeast Asia. Although, of course, I will set the scene in respect of fintech and financial services before coming to the huge prospects that exist in Southeast Asia in terms of digital finance and particularly in terms of fintech. I mean, you would be aware, and I have in my slides, the differences, the key differences between digital finance and fintech. Essentially, we are talking about, if you like, the financial institutions on the one hand, and the new, rising, vibrant little companies offering huge technology platforms for new products that are rising, forming competition, of course, to the traditional financial institutions, but at the same time offering solutions to the unbanked and underbanked in the region. The key differences you will find in my slides, and you can read them at your leisure, and they would then set clearly in your mind about what's happening between financial institutions on one hand and fintechs on the other. I mean, a good example of the difference would be a recent statement by the president of Maybank, Malaysia, saying that his institution, Maybank, bank, a huge Malaysian bank, is not going to apply for a digital banking license because they already have within their processes a whole load of solutions for their users that use technology to expedite their services and products. So fintechs will be a competitor, but existing institutions can use technology to ward off that competition, or to ensure they give better service to their customers. The main thing is, the main driver of all these changes and challenges is the consumer, the customer. So products are now, and processes are being customer driven and not supplier driven, as was in the case traditionally with banks. And they all have to take note of this change. In Southeast Asia, we find that the digital financial services industry is growing, has a huge, healthy outlook, particularly in terms of digital payments and lending, investment, and remittances. You'll see in my slide 8 that aside from lending, digital financial services are on a healthy trajectory. We have there 5 products and activities that clearly indicate the rise in demand for example, if you look at digital payments, the gross transactional value in 2020 had risen from 3% against 2019, but projection is that it will rise a further 15% running into 2025. So look at these businesses, assets under management, you will see, again, a very sharp increase expected in the next 5 years. And then a report by the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance lays out what has been growing in the landscape, the business models that have been growing. And you would see that digital lending has been going up, but digital payments is becoming quite a big a growth area, digital payments, and then capital raising, crowdfunding, enterprise tech finance, and so on. So that all the indicators are of a rise. So those that are rising fast may seem to be the ones one would like to clamber on. But don't forget, those that are rising slowly may offer greater space for greater advantage in terms of the potential that they offer. And InsurTech, for example, that shows only 8%, I think, given how underinsured the market is in Southeast Asia and elsewhere in Asia, might offer to you a great possibility for future growth in the coming years. Now, in terms of that same Cambridge report, it was found that 42% of the customer base of ASEAN FinTech firms were individuals. However, as the FinTech landscape continues to evolve, FinTech firms are actually realizing that it is more profitable to focus on serving small businesses and larger corporations. The Cambridge study also found that over 75% of FinTech firms generating revenue have received from investors funding greater than $1 million, and 16% of the FinTech firms receive funding of greater than 20 million, which demonstrates the tremendous interest in ASEAN FinTech sector by VCs, venture capital funds, and other big investors. And the COVID pandemic led to increased access to and need for digital banking services, particularly banking itself as an activity, digital payments, and loan financing services. Again, you have in the slide 10 that says COVID-19 will accelerate the digital revolution of financial services in Southeast Asia. And what will be then the trends? The trends will be that we have more than 70% of consumers in ASEAN who are believed to be underbanked or unbanked. It has been widely recognized by academics and policymakers that financial inclusion could generate significant benefits and drive higher economic activity. So with this unbanked population or underbanked population, there's a huge opportunity for growth, and therefore FinTech firms can be a key enabler in providing access to and active usage of formal financial services and products, and be it individuals, businesses, which typically fall outside the remit of traditional banking, and SMEs in particular need to be banked and need access to finance. Now, so this fintechs that can provide that link, that connection to finance, and then you will see that the year-on-year growth rate of the total number of fintechs in operation in the ASEAN 6, for example, just take the ASEAN 6 countries, we're looking at the Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, they tapered off from 31% at its peak in 2018 to 2% in 2020, but is likely due to the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it will start to grow at a faster rate again as we recover from COVID-19, even in an endemic COVID-19 environment. Therefore, it remains healthy, and the top choice for market expansion remains to be ASEAN, over the next 2 years, both for FinTech firms which are headquartered in ASEAN and those headquartered outside. Now, of course, within ASEAN, there are different rates of growth, different levels of achievement, and you would see how Singapore, of course, is well ahead within the ASEAN 6, accounting for 42% of the region's sort of disclosed deals in FinTech. This is, of course, attributed to management levels in Singapore, established leadership in the FinTech landscape. But don't forget, those who are down lower have greater potential for growth. And you see from the Indonesian example, they are moving up. They're moving up. Indonesia is big news, for FinTech growth. And the Philippines and Thailand too, who are tied for third, have got a good potential as well. And when you look at how the top FinTech acquisitions in Southeast Asia, a perusal of the top 10 FinTech acquisitions in Southeast Asia since 2015 shows that the majority were in the payments industry. So if you look at my slide 17, you will see what kind of acquisitions have been made by whom. And the usual suspects appear there. Here we have Gojek, of course, and Grab. These are big movers and watch the space of their growth. And of course, there are the others like Razer and so on who made acquisitions. And as I said, the sector in which those acquisitions are being made are primarily in the payments sector. And between 2013 and 2020, payments and wealth management startups were the main acquisition targets in FinTech exits. New targets emerged. I mentioned insurance, in InsurTech and enterprise software in 2020. So what is the market potential? At the moment, 69% of the ASEAN population have access to the internet, giving the region one of the highest proportion of internet users within Asia. Have a look at the map on slide 20. And the growth in internet users look at slide 21, shows that Southeast Asia has the highest year-on-year growth of internet users within Asia at 9.6. Of course, the time spent, is also very high in Southeast Asian countries. And of course, there are certain outcomes of such use of the internet, staring into the screen and so on. And you see today in China, there is concern about how much time is spent, especially by kids, by staring, but it's not to do with FinTech and the financial sectors particularly, but there will be a time in which, staring into screen is not going to be said to be the best thing to do. But here we are talking about staring into screen for specific purpose of financial transactions. And in slide 20, we see that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the digitalization of ASEAN with 40 million new users joining the internet in 2020 compared to the previous year. This is a huge jump, and there's no turning back. It is going to move forward post-COVID or even endemic COVID situation. And so we are seeing growth and growth and growth, consumers spending more time on online access in Southeast Asia due to COVID-induced, but will continue post-COVID induced. And 9 in 10 new digital consumers in ASEAN intend, I said there's no turning back, intend to use digital services going forward. 9 in 10. And the percentage of new digital consumers will continue to use at least one digital device post-COVID-19 is very, very high. And mobile connections is very, very high versus total collection in Southeast Asia. So it's a booming market. So ASEAN fintech firms typically want to expand to other ASEAN markets. And in slide 29, you will see the issues about expanding to other ASEAN markets. I mean, the issues have often been and pushed the envelope to push the parameters to allow, for example, the regulatory framework to enable a sort of more such intrusions or such expansion to have digital infrastructure readiness. This is a huge amount of work that has to be done and very difficult to push the boundaries. And we've been doing this for quite some time. And for example, since 2015, through ASEAN Business Advisory Council, when I was the chairman of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council in the Malaysian year, we started what's called legacy projects, which each country can push. And the legacy project that Malaysia has, that Malaysia chairs, that Malaysia drives is called the ASEAN Financial Inclusion Solutions. Precisely what we're talking about in terms of what fintechs can do, and particularly what will be readily accepted that we can move forward with anyone interested is in terms of the financing along the value chain for SMEs. But any other financial inclusion solutions can be moved forward, including, for example, in terms of insurance, having more democratic, widespread, and cheap insurance premiums that can apply to the ASEAN population, particularly in terms of health insurance, which is very important at this particular time. And this is something that Chari has been working on for the longest time. So I'm saying that ASEAN is the growth area. I'm saying that this growth is over a long period of time, and that this growth is not going to be interrupted, although it may be sort of slowed down a bit by COVID. But endemic COVID situation will see a better recovery in growth rates going forward. And we can see the resilience of the fintech firms has increased as they faced these challenges of COVID. And there is great confidence among at least as high as 87% of them that they can be resilient. And therefore, despite everything, against the backdrop of what has been achieved and the potential growth in the fintech industry is going to be huge. Potential is going to be great. Let me end my presentation, which gets lots of facts and figures that you see in the slides, by underlining the context in which the developments and prospects for digital finance and fintech are taking place. I mean, there is a huge historic geo-economic and geopolitical shift to East Asia that has been taking place. That's the background to it all. No doubt a lot of it is about the rise of China, but consequently there's a decoupling with the US, and China itself has got some slow down problems. Itself is looking at the regional growth and the implications of the region as a whole in this historic shift, not a China story alone. And ASEAN is one of the most dynamic regions in the world, with the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is the largest FTA in the world. Northeast and Southeast Asia are getting together in a formalized trade and investment framework, which will have far-reaching trade investment, and subsequently geopolitical implications. There'll be a geopolitical, a geoeconomic reset in the world. It is mega RCEP. It is mega. It's almost 1/3 of everything, 2.2 billion of population, 30% of global GDP and global trade. And if there is a link that develops with the CPTPP, all the members of RCEP are not members of CEPT, but 11 of them are. But the 4 new markets that will come with CPTPP as an RCEP plus situation are Mexico, Canada, and Chile and Peru. So you see this shift, you see a formalization of this shift in the largest free trade agreement in the world, which is RCEP. You see the CPTPP as some potential market of those who are not in RCEP. And even in the future, you might see the FTAAP, Free Trade Area of the Asia Pacific, reaching out to those countries on the other side of the Pacific who might want to be part of this new regional arrangement. At the moment, what clearly exists is Northeast and Southeast Asia is going to be the center of economic activity. This is the background of the huge growth in financial institutions and FinTech in particular, in the world today. I thank you for your attention.